Celtics trade Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers. We discuss what they got back from it next on Beyond the Locker Room. Was it a good deal? That is the question we're going to ask. And then we're going to discuss kind of what's the fallout since the deal has happened. But I got a few things to say about that. Thanks for joining me again, folks. You know who I am. I'm Beyond the Locker Room. As always, you can like, comment, subscribe, share, and we're going to get into it right now about the Celtics dealing of Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, who's a multi-time All-Star, 5-time All-Star. I think 2 times he's been on the All-NBA team. He's a Finals MVP. He's an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He's an NBA champion. He has been dealt to the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is essentially what they got in return, Boston. They received the 36-year-old Paul George, who's been pretty injury-prone the last few years, a 2028 unprotected first-round pick, a 2031 first-round pick, and second round picks in 2028 and 2030. So when you look at it and you're asking yourself, like, what's going on here? Like, how is it that the Celtics got so little from this deal? Now, there's a lot of things going around about and this is where I want to get into it pretty much about this part about what framed this deal. The rumor is they pitched Jaylen Brown to just about everybody, and all these folks said no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. Now, based on what I saw at Philadelphia and what they offered, I find that hard to believe that no other team in the league, Sacramento in this case here, is just sitting there going like, no, we're good. I don't buy that. In this case here, I think what we're looking at is something very different, and I think Boston's trying to find a way to skew it a different way, and I think it's some nasty work that we're getting into. So, Boston gets the deal, and I think, the Celtics had pretty much knew there was going to be some backlash towards it, probably from the Celtics fan base, which I think a lot of Celtics fans do like Jaylen Brown. They grew up with Jaylen Brown. He's a Boston guy from the standpoint he was drafted by the Celtics. No via trade, nothing. He's drafted, obviously a top 5 pick, top 3 pick, I think, in his case perhaps, and from California. He's a dude in this case that has never, as far as I know, has never said an ill word about the Celtics organization. He and Brad Stevens have had their moments, but I don't think anything that was like out of the ordinary where it's like, whoa, hey. So so he said something on his podcast or his live stream that got people upset. It's like, dude, what are you doing? I even said to myself, it's like, dude, I'm not sure if that's what you want to say. But for it to turn from that to what we ended up with now and what they got dealt with a rival in this case here, which says either one or two things. A, they're desperate. That's one possibility. Or B, they don't think in this case he can hurt them. I don't know about that, but hey. But the part that really rubs me the wrong way, we say this is beyond the locker room, is if you're the Celtics, you're Brad Stevens, you made this deal. And quite honestly, I've looked around for the last 3-4 days. Ex-Celtics can't stand this deal. From everyone from Robert Parrish to Paul Pierce. And you decide to make this deal. And you're giving all this type of stuff. You can see all the stuff, And the thing is with Boston, unlike a lot of other teams, Boston has a lot of power in the media. And what I mean by that is they have a lot of folks that come from the Boston area. They're Celtics fans themselves, and they have a lot of folks that could get the word out and get the voice out for the Celtics. So now you're seeing here a lot of different stories all of a sudden coming out. It's like, well, Cowherd gets this one thing saying, well, I talked to 2 guys in the league, one a scout and one executive, and said, he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room mindset. If it is, if it's not, who knows? My point is, why are you coming out with this now? As I said before, Jaylen Brown said a word about the Celtics organization. Quite honestly, he hasn't said anything about his teammates, actually. But for you to kind of start throwing that out there, the character assassination is happening here. I said on Twitter, listen, I didn't really believe much in the stuff with Jaylen Brown was talking about how there's like an agenda against him when he didn't get picked for the Olympic team. But I got to start wondering that now, because for folks that kind of go after a guy who, quite honestly, has not really said or done that much to have, and I don't think he's that polarized of a character, for them to kind of go out their way to kind of have folks addressing media personalities like Colin Cowherd and others who I've heard from the last week. Bobby Marks, I think, had another little kind of comment like that. I don't think if the Celtics think this makes them look good to kind of justify the trade they made, It's not making you look good, guys. It's not, Boston. It's really nasty work, as I said before. Like, if you want to trade the guy, just stand 10 toes down on it and just trade the guy. And to kind of say, oh, like he's this problem in the locker room, blah, blah, all type of stuff, which you're trying to insinuate that he's all the time this malcontent, insinuate. Maybe, maybe not. But let's call it a buck what it really is. You found an opportunity in this case to dump salary, because that's what you've been doing for the last 2 years. Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Al Horford, now Jaylen Brown. That's what you guys have been doing. And if you just be honest about it, that it's a salary dump, then just be honest with it. But to kind of go out here throwing out these little stories to your buddies in the media, they say, hey, this guy here whispering in the corners, in the dark corners of the NBA circles, I heard this, that, and the next thing. By the time this gets out, who knows? I might find out Jaylen Brown's got like three eyes in this case here and gave birth to an alien at this point. Like, it's ridiculous. It's not. It's not becoming of the Celtics or any franchise, quite honestly, to do that type of dirty work. If it's a salary dump, just call it what it is, a salary dump. Because guess what? You didn't have to trade him. I've seen worse situations and people played with the player until they found the right opportunity. You didn't have to trade him, but you did so anyhow. So you own it and just own it. Now, as far as the deal goes, man, good on Philadelphia, because right now, in my mind, Philadelphia is right up there now. They're going to be knocking that door with the Knicks right now. And quite honestly, I think they have surpassed the Raptors. I'm not going to get too much to the Raptors today. I got the podcast down, a couple of podcasts down here. I'll put a link down there for a couple of podcasts that I've talked to about the Kawhi deal. I will say this about, it's tying it back to Kawhi in one perspective. This is the reason why I'm lukewarm. I don't hate the Kawhi deal. If you get Kawhi Leonard on your team, fantastic. My concern was always the draft compensation and the package they were giving back, not even the players. Because when you look at it and see what you got for Jaylen Brown, you have to ask yourself, like, wait, you couldn't do so? You couldn't throw in an offer, the offer for Jaylen Brown, who's like 7 years younger or 6 years younger, way more durable, who's in his prime, a pretty good two-way player. I don't know, man. I think there's something to, where I think there's something to be, I think there's a desperation the Raptors had, I mentioned on these previous podcasts. I'll put the link, as I said before. You'll see it at the end of the pod. And I'm just saying that I think the Raptors pulled the trigger too soon with the Kawhi Leonard. And I don't know if they gave their best offer in this case for Jaylen Brown. If they were doing so, at least what it would be a decent enough offer. Because I think the Raptors could give a better package than that. Like, honestly. Like, I mean, you tell me Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick going back to Boston, for example. And you essentially would get the same two, you get one of the picks. Like, the thing is, Philadelphia only had to give up one first round pick. We gave up two. And both teams gave up two second round picks. Both of them gave up one in 2030. We gave it one in 2033. The Sixers gave one up in 2028, a second round pick. So essentially the deals at that point look pretty similar, but the big difference is, if you're the Raptors, you have a younger player who's at 29 years old as well too, with Grady, which is a nice young player, could shoot, fit into the Boston type of style to some extent, I think. And you have only given up perhaps one unprotected first round pick, which in this case is a 2030. Actually, I think is a 2020 unprotected first round pick and a 2031 first rounder. So they gave away two as well too in 2028 and 2031. But that's essentially the same package that you could have given for Jaylen Brown, is what I'm saying. And that's why I'm wondering, like, huh? And we even have a swap in ours as well too. So like, I mean, this leads to another point I'm going to get to now. And I'm going to switch over to why I think the Raptors didn't do what they did and what the word is on the street about why the rest of the league did it. Analytics. The favorite word the last decade or so of sports. Analytics. Analytics, I'll take the Jalen Rose mindset when it comes to analytics. It's part of the toolkit It shouldn't be the entire toolkit. And I think somehow in the NBA, executives have lost their way with the analytics. I think that sometimes you just got to look and see what you're seeing versus, well, let me see here. What's the per this in this case? The plus minus or so-and-so in this case is a lot less than so-and-so. I'm sitting here watching the games. Jaylen Brown's team's winning 55 games or so without Jason Tatum. I think he helps winning. They've won pretty much ever since he's been there. They've been to 6 Eastern Conference finals, 2 finals, 1 of finals. But yeah, the per in this case is so-and-so. Like, with all sorts of iterations of teams, by the way, with Jaylen Brown involved in it. And at some point, sometimes it's just about the numbers. Sometimes it's just not about numbers. Sometimes it's like, can a guy hoop or not? And I think that's why a lot of ex-players are looking around saying, like, what the hell are you people talking about? Because the irony is, when they won their championship, the one guy actually that was not analytically driven was Jaylen Brown. And the reason why he won those MVPs in the Eastern Conference in the finals was he would attack the hoop and he would pull up for the mid-range. Because that's what they're going to offer you in the playoffs. I keep saying this to folks. All right? The mid-range is your salvation in the postseason. You're not winning unless you have a really great mid-range shooter. You're just not. I'm sorry. Even these Warriors teams are saying, well, they shoot so many threes. Yeah, you know what Steph can also do? He shoot a mid-range pretty damn good. And when they got that guy Kevin Durant, he's one of the best mid-range shooters that we've ever seen. This idea that is like we just shoot threes all day long and we're going to get layups. You don't think the other team knows this too, folks? When you get in the playoffs, you can try this. The Spurs just learned a horrible lesson with it when they're up 29 points and kept on chucking up threes. I just did a podcast about 2 weeks ago. Nothing wrong with analytics to some extent, but if you start getting absorbed and you start following everything based on the analytics, you've lost the plot. Some guys may not read analytically correct in your mind, but they can flat out play. And for you to think that Jaylen Brown in this case at this stage of the game versus Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi Leonard analytically, it's not analytically good if he's out for 30 games this season. How's that analytically? How's that going to work out for you? Right? And these are the things that people don't take into account. When he's aged and he's winded in this case here because now he's 35. How's that work analytically? These are things. I just get frustrated with the NBA. I mean, baseball's in the same boat where it's like, dude, I get it. You want to hit the home run in a second. There's nothing wrong with a bunt in this case to move a guy over. I'm old school. And you watch these teams in the playoffs in the World Series and stuff like that. They can't knock a guy in from third base. Because they don't know how to do a hit and run, or they don't know how to hit the opposite side of the field, or they can't do a bloody bunt. Same thing here. I don't know how many more times you guys see this play out. But hey, here we are. With 29-year-old guys in their prime of their career averaging about almost 30 a game and top 5 or 6 in MVP voting, he's not really a worthwhile player to take. This is the world we're in now. Oh, gosh. All I know is I'm going to wrap up on this point. And I'll say this, man. Yeah, just to finish the Raptors point, listen, man, all the plus minuses are fine. That's all fine and dandy. CMB, great plus minus. Oh, Allen Graves, great plus minus. Kawhi Leonard. Look, man. Especially for the first 2 guys, when it's all said and done, when they're up against guys that are 7 feet tall and they're 4 or 5 inches shorter, you can do as much plus minus as you want, as you saw in the Cleveland series in Game 7. Plus minus all you like with CMB. When it's all said and done, he's 6 inches shorter than the center that he's playing against. All right? Analytically speaking. All right? When it's all said and done. Okay? I don't know how. I saw Paul George, getting some work, getting worked a little bit by Jaylen Brown. But hey, according to Boston, in this case here, they feel that Peyton Pritchard's ready to take that jump like Jalen Brunson. Okay, wish you luck on that. I look forward to seeing the progress there of young Pritchard. We'll see. Okay, boy, I tell you, man, they're really trying to sell out there in Boston, but they're out there getting killed right now, and I don't like the fact they're trying to assassinate the young man's character. You want to make the deal? Make the deal. But you own that, man. Step in it, 10 toes down, just own it. Own it, Brad Stevens. Own it, Boston organization. Just call it for what it is. It's a salary dump, and you don't want to say it's a salary dump. It's a salary dump. But anyways, folks, man, I'm going to leave it there. Lots of stuff going on right now in the NBA. Free agencies here. Said before, check out below my thoughts on the Kawhi Leonard deal with Kenya and Basketball Rewind, as well as what I've done recently on the To The Point with King. So check that out, guys. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Once again, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, X, and Blue Sky. And of course, you can like, comment, share, and subscribe right here on YouTube. Thanks again, guys. Be safe, and we'll talk next time. Peace.